Inquisition, not Thoughtseize, with that just being one dual land, no fetch land. A little bit away from a Death Shadow as well.
Oh, absolutely. Things can kind of turn immediately, though, if he finds a Thought Scour. That basically allows him to play Gurmag Angler immediately. This Thoughtseize here probably going to be taking care of Supreme Verdict. That uncounterability is a big deal.
Yeah, let's take a look at the new hand. Settle the Wreckage was the pickup, and Kevin's actually going for Lightning Helix.
Okay.
That's interesting. I suppose the plan is he thinks he can just beat a hand of 4-mana spells.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly fair. He could also just have something like another Thoughtseize and a Stubborn Denial and just have these other two locked up, and the Lightning Helix is a little bit more daunting at the moment.
Sure. Yeah, so Kevin goes to 16 off of that Thoughtseize and then plays Steam Vents tapped. It looks like he's not in a rush to Shadow here. Must not have one in hand.
Yeah, that makes sense. And whenever you don't have access to Shadow against a deck that has Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, and Snapcaster Mage, it's pretty dangerous to just start shocking yourself without having the Death Shadow at the ready.
Right, yeah, you got to temper your play patterns. Purcell's going to fetch down to 18, Hollowed Fountain tapped. We're going to go back to his end. Right now, we know he's got a hand of 4-mana sweepers and lands.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we watched Jeskai Control multiple times, and I saw the Jeskai Control opponent die from 10 life and 12 life all in a single turn with nothing but a Snapcaster Mage on the battlefield.
Wow.
So things change quickly.
Celestial Colonnade was the pickup for Purcell. Decides to play that over his other lands. That makes sense. So Kevin's working with some perfect information. So we go to his turn. He's going to Mishra's Bauble himself, followed by Polluted Delta. But no threat just yet for Kevin Jones. Can't really take advantage of this information that he has.
Yeah, he decides to not fetch with a Polluted Delta, which meant the card on top was pretty good. My guess is that it's a good threat. And if he has a Thoughtseize here to protect it from the Supreme Verdict, he should be in good shape.
Yeah. Drew his card off Bauble. Back on Purcell's side, just plays that Hollowed Fountain tapped. Back to Kevin Jones. Now on his main phase, he'll crack that Polluted Delta now that he's drawn that card that he liked. Fall to 15. We'll see if he goes to 13 off of this.
Yeah, noticeably, Kevin actually has a red card in his hand, and that card is either Lightning Bolt or Temur Battle Rage. And if it's Temur Battle Rage, I think Kevin might have actually set up a potentially lethal 2-turn setup with something like Gurmag Angler here plus Thoughtseize, take away the Supreme Verdict. Luke Purcell has the hold up for Settle the Wreckage, gets it with a Stubborn Denial plus Temur Battle Rage plus another attack.
Yeah.
It's close. It's not quite it, but it's close. Snapcaster Mage in hand, though. Might be enough.
Blood Crypt was the land. Kevin did go to 13, and main phase Snapcaster Mage. Got to figure this going for one of these discard spells here. Guess those are the only options. Goes for the Thoughtseize, as he knows about a bunch of 4-mana spells. That makes sense. Yeah,
Purcell here has drawn a Lightning Bolt since. Still has that Settle the Wreckage, still has that Supreme Verdict. My guess is going to use that Lightning Bolt here to take care of that Snapcaster Mage because Kevin might see this hand and be like, okay, well, I'll make you spend a 4-mana spell to deal with the Snapcaster Mage, or else it's going to chunk you for a couple points of damage over the next 2 turns.
Yeah, so there's no response for Purcell. As you mentioned, Lightning Bolt was the additional card, so it was Verdict, Settle, Island, Lightning Bolt. Supreme Verdict, that's going to hit the bin there, and Kevin Jones will fall to 11. We're back on Purcell's side. Draw for turn was Peak. Don't see a ton of this in Modern, but now we're going to get our first look at Kevin Jones' full hand. Looks like Gurmag Angler, Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt, Temur Battle Rage, and Stubborn Denial.
Yeah, and Kevin here figuring out that the Supreme Verdict needs to go away before he casts Gurmag Angler, choosing to play Snapcaster Mage last turn as opposed to the Gurmag Angler. Of course, with that Stubborn Denial in hand, can check the Settle the Wreckage quite easily. 2 copies of Peak in Purcell's list. That is, again, not something you see too much in the Jeskai Control decks. You know, they more so lean on things like Opt, Serum Visions to fix the draws, but Luke Purcell putting a lot of value on knowledge of the opponent's hand.
Yeah, that information can definitely play a big part in how you want to navigate. Definitely a matchup like this that has so much nuance to it. So you see him play his Island for the turn there, back on Kevin's side. He's going to Lightning Bolt that Snapcaster Mage before Kevin can come across with that. So now in the second phase, here's a Bloodstained Mire for Jones. Looks like he's thinking about playing that Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, he's going to pay 2 mana for it so he can leave that Inquisition of Kozilek in the graveyard. Doesn't really want to crack the fetch line yet. Realizing that his life total could be in jeopardy, with that Celestial Colonnade looming.
Yeah, a situation where he might want to take 3, he might want to take 1, might want to take 0, just leave it uncracked.
Right.
Purcell draws another island. That's his play for the turn. Not looking to get frisky with the Colonnade just yet. He'll pass back.
Second Stubborn Denial drawn here from Kevin. This could be it, folks.
Yeah, here's an attack with the Gurmag Angler. Purcell's going to play the settle. It's going to walk into the Stubborn Denial. I think both players were expecting that.
Yeah, and I think Purcell recognizes he has to just kind of grind through these Stubborn Denials, and he's not going to sit back and wait.
Like the Purcell might have picked up a Logic Knot for the turn. That's a little late on fighting over a Gurmag Angler. He can only pass back.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Kevin Jones actually has lethal here. He has Stubborn Denial, Lightning Bolt, and another Teamer Battle Rage to do 13. Yeah, I think he's just going to go for it.
Here's the attack with the Angler. Here's a Teamer Battle Rage. Spell Snare for Purcell, targeting the Battle Rage. Kevin's going to let that one go. Content to hit for 5. That'll knock Purcell to 8.
Yeah, if he uses the Stubborn Denial and gets it countered, he's in a spot where he actually just loses the Path to Exile, recognizing that the Teamer Battle Rage going for lethal here is not something he wants to do.
Here's a Search for Escanta from Luke Purcell. That one's not doing too much on this board state, so we'll go back to Kevin Jones. Another fetch land. Here comes the Gurmag Angler. Purcell falls to 3. We all know about that Lightning Bolt. When is Kevin going to shove? Well, here it is.
Yeah, when he's only got 4 mana in hand, I think it's best to just go for it now.
Yep. Logic Knot, Stubborn Denial, and game 1 goes to Kevin Jones.
Yep. I mean, I've played a lot of Grixis Death Shadow. That is how it's done. When you play your one big threat, you use your Disruption, your discard spells, your counter spells, even your Snapcaster Mage on the flashback to protect that one threat and let it just chunk your opponent to death. Luckily for Kevin, that threat in that game was Gurmag Angler and not Death Shadow, so his life total was never really in jeopardy from those burn spells.
Yeah, looked like pretty smooth sailing there. So let's go to the sideboard, see if maybe Luke Purcell can make a harder go of it as we move on to these post-sideboard games. His options available to him: 1 Lyra Dawnbringer, an Abrade, a Ceremonious Rejection, another Supreme Verdict, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Dispel, a Baneslayer Angel, sort of the second Lyra Dawnbringer, 2 Celestial Purge, 2 Vanillion Click, and a Gate, and an Engineered Explosives. There's a few good ones here.
Oh, absolutely. I think that you basically just want to lower your overall curve of the deck, but you don't want to lower the overall power level of your deck. Cards like Jace the Mind Sculptor and Teferi are a little too expensive, and with the Grixis Death Shadow decks going back to like 3, sometimes 4 copies of Stubborn Denial in their deck after sideboard, those Planeswalkers get a lot worse. I would like to see those replaced with things like Baneslayer Angel, as well as a bunch of cheap removal like Celestial Purge is awesome. I like Dispel because it can help win a fight over Stubborn Denial. Yeah, that's about it. The Engineered Explosives is hit or miss. It doesn't take care of Gurmag Angler, only Death Shadow. And maybe Vanillion Click is just another flash creature that can apply some pressure in some weird spots if the Shadow deck takes too much damage.
Yeah, that's the squeeze the Shadow deck puts you in when you try to play control against them. Stuff that deals with a 7-mana threat and a 1-mana threat tends to be pretty different.
Yes.
Over on Kevin Jones' side, we have 3 Surgical Extraction, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Grim Lavamancer, an Abrade, a Liliana the Last Hope, an Izzet Staticaster, a Lightning Bolt, a Kolaghan's Command, a Snapcaster Mage, another Stubborn Denial, and a Collective Brutality. What do you like here?
Basically anything that interacts for cheap as well as can push you towards grinding through a longer game. I really like Stubborn Denial as another means of protection. The additional Snapcaster Mage is obviously wanted. The Kolaghan's Command, even though a lot of the removal spell from the Jeskai deck does exile, there are still those Supreme Verdicts, as well as a number of double burn spell type things that can really take care of your creatures. So Kolaghan's Command is definitely warranted. Plus, you just have the Thought Scours that can sometimes put a creature in your graveyard, and you just want that added value. I don't really like Lightning Bolt. Liliana Last Hope is very good, similar to why Kolaghan's Command is good, as well as just threatening ultimate if your opponent does nothing. And then I'm actually kind of on the fence about these 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke. I think Purcell is just going to lower his curve tremendously, and I think that something like Disdainful Stroke is just going to rot in your hand for the most part.
Yeah, definitely situational. We'll see how Kevin navigates it, though he's definitely no slouch at this game. The Players' Championship competitor, here you see him. He has, in last year, played 11 Opens, only 1 top 8, but all time you look at 13 top 8s with 2 wins.
Yeah, just an excellent track record. Kevin Jones moving a little more towards the Pro Tour side of things here over the last few years. I know he made the Magic World Cup winning a WMCQ when he missed a flight to an Open.
Yeah.
Which was pretty dope.
Grand Prix champion as well.
Yeah, really just been killing it lately, and as you can see, his record speaks for itself.
Yeah, once won the Legacy Championship with Blue Red Delver. One of his open wins, Grixis Delver in Modern. So he's pretty familiar with these Grixis tempo strategies.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone thinks Kevin Jones is the Jeskai guy because he won an Open once when Jeskai was first, previewed.
Mantis Rider.
Yeah, and but he is all about playing one threat and kind of riding it to victory, whether that's Delver of Secrets, Gurmag Angler, or Mantis Rider. These cheap, aggressive, blue kind of threats, they're exactly his wheelhouse.
Oh, yeah. Cast a couple Deceiver Exarchs in his time. That one might be a sore spot for you.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it.
Players are shuffling up here for game number 2, so we'll have Purcell on the play this time. He was in game 1. Maybe he'll be able to turn that around and actually leverage the search for Escantha, not get hit by a discard spell this time.
Yeah, expecting to not get hit by a discard spell against Death Shadow is kind of a pipe dream.
It's ambitious.
Yeah, especially the Grixis versions, which also contain multiple copies of Summer Denial, which can counter it on the second turn as well, even though it doesn't have Ferocious.
Have you played a lot with the Grixis Death Shadow builds in Modern?
I have not played a ton with the ones with Mishra's Bauble. I've played the Mishra's Bauble Jund versions, and I've played the Grixis Shadow Snapcaster versions. But the newer iterations that feature Bauble as this hybridization between the two strategies, not something I've had too much play with, so I'm not super familiar. But I've watched a lot. I've read a lot about it via Ben Friedman on StarCityGames.com, and I've watched it a couple times here on camera this weekend, and it looks very strong. Yeah,
Ben Friedman, as you mentioned, has written several times about this strategy over on StarCityGames.com. Big proponent of the Mishra's Bauble adaptation. It's kind of funny. You mentioned that there are these 4-color Traverse the Ovenwald Death Shadow decks. They're trying to take advantage of the card type for Delirium.
Right.
This deck's just gassing up the graveyard so they can cast Gurmag Angler faster.
Yeah, I mean, Traverse the Ovenwald is an extremely powerful card if you're able to turn on Delirium. Any sort of tutor effect for 1 mana, even if it's just getting a creature or a non-basic land, is going to be strong. And in those versions, you want to trigger, or you want to turn on Delirium so you don't end up playing things like Gurmag Angler. You're just really heavy on things like Tarmogoyf and Death Shadow. This version of the deck uses Mishra's Bauble as basically a free sleight of hand. You look at the top card, you see if you want to fetch it away or not. It pushes you a little bit faster towards something like Delve, but it's free, and that's the big deal.
Yeah. And this game underway, Luke Purcell, turn 1 Hollow Fountain tap. We're to Kevin, and he's going for some tricky Mishra Baubles action. He'll bobble himself. Street Race to draw the card. He likes it. And here's Basic Swamp into Inquisition of Kozilek. Get a look at Purcell's hand here. We have Island, Path to Exile, Snapcaster Mage, Basic Mountain, and 2 Cryptic Commands.
Yeah, which is common here. Inquisition taking the Snapcaster Mage. It is always a redundant copy of any card you could take with a discard spell with the body attached. And if the choices are Snapcaster Mage or Path to Exile, you should almost always take the Snapcaster Mage.
Right. Yeah, you can always fight over the path with a Stubborn Denial if it comes to that. So we go back to Purcell. Kevin makes sure to get in that Mishra's Bauble trigger. He'll draw a card there. Purcell will deploy that basic island and pass back.
Delay trigger is quite possibly my least favorite aspect of Magic the Gathering. However,
the slow trip.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's a weird one. They don't do that anymore.
Well,
it's the slow trip specifically. There are some delayed triggers. Another Mishra's Bauble for Kevin Jones on the second turn. He's going to take a look at his own deck again.
Yeah, he has a fetch land he can play or a Blood Crypt, so if he wants to keep that card, he can. If he wants to shuffle it away, he can as well.
Scalding Tarn's land for turn. Remember, he's at 18 because of that Street Wraith on turn 1. He'll crack the Tarn down to 17. Do I hear 15?
Guy, when I started at 15, Bob, 14, I got to take 12. Death Shadow, Bob.
Water Grave, 15. 15 is the call. Do I see a Thoughtseize?
No, you don't. I'm curious. Oh, man. I'm going to need some more coffee.
That's evergreen.
That's true.
That's just always true. Graveyard getting pretty stocked for Kevin Jones as he splits a sleeve. We'll get that fixed. He should pick up some Ultimate Guard katanas.
Yeah, those don't break.
Those are some nice sleeves.
I've been told by Cedric Phillips they don't break. That is a guarantee. I'm just kidding. I do not work for them. They're not a sponsor of me specifically. They are a sponsor of SCG Tour.
If you have any questions as to the longevity of the strength of the katanas as you shuffle them, just go tag at Cedric A. Phillips on Twitter right now. Ask him about the katana sleeves. He'd be happy to field your questions. All right, the play is Collective Brutality. I imagine that Kevin Jones will not be gaining life here. He's just going with the look at an opponent's hand mode. The draw for Purcell was Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. You can't hit that with Brutality. It only finds instants and sorceries.
Yeah, my guess, I don't know, Kevin has a tough time here of trying to figure out if he wants to try to grind through these 4-mana things or just hope that Purcell never draws the 4th mana, or that the 4-mana spells just kind of bottleneck him. You know, once he gets to 4 mana, if he's able to start casting these spells, they're not really super good if they're one at a time, and Kevin has these 1-for-1 answers via Summer Denial, Snapcaster on Summer Denial, etc.
Yeah, and those sideboard Disdainful Strokes definitely come into play there if he has boarded them in. Take's going to be Path to Exile. Purcell just going to play that basic mountain. Nothing to do just yet, so we'll go back to Kevin Jones. He'll cycle a Street Wraith. Here's the 13.
I think he's looking for second source of blue mana here because he had, I believe, multiple Blood Crypts in hand.
Yeah, Polluted Delta was picked up.
Or just looking for a threat.
Yeah, he's pretty good at damaging himself. He's got to figure out a way to damage Purcell here. Couple updates, split games on the back tables here. Davis takes game 1 over Negri, and Nikolich game 1 over Pastore. Thoughtseize, Kevin Jones going to take another look at that hand. Another Path to Exile was added. That's going to be the take again. It's just 2 Cryptic Commands and Teferi, Hero of Dominaria in the hand for Purcell. Kevin will fall to 11.
If Kevin has a Death Shadow or a Gurmag Angler here, he's going to be in pretty good shape. That Summer Denial doesn't need Ferocious at the moment to be turned on. Purcell, those Cryptic Commands costing 4, doesn't even have 4 mana yet.
Yeah, and Kevin does have the Shadow. He'll Blood Crypt down to 9 and deploy that. On Purcell's side, it's Search for Escanta as the draw, so no land just yet to start getting to those expensive spells. And Kevin's deck has quite a lot of answers to them if he's drawn them, though his hand is a little heavy on lands. He'll start his turn with Polluted Delta here. He'll fetch that. We'll double check on life totals. I believe he should have shocked down to 9 last turn.
Oh.
All right, so he'll clack the Polluted Delta here. Likely an untapped dual land. Steam Vents here. Jones is falling to 8.
Yeah, it looks like he picked up another copy of Thoughtseize as well, so that combined with the Summer Denial should basically check the entire hand of Purcell, and this Death Shadow, along with that Thoughtseize, is going to be a 7/7 and potentially lethal next turn alongside Temur Battle Rage or even a Lightning Bolt.
Right. That notwithstanding, Purcell's hand's just not doing anything without some help as well. Jones in a pretty solid spot.
Yeah, I mean, this is a prime example of the Jeskai deck being a little too reactive. You see all these 4-mana cards still kind of stranded in hand, but 2-3 discard spells, taking the Snapcaster Mage, taking the 2 Path to Exiles, it's pretty rough.
Yeah. So Jones Thoughtseize is down to 6, takes one of those Cryptic Commands. Here comes the Death Shadow. That's a swing for 7. Should be knocking Purcell to 13. Purcell will take a look at a Supreme Verdict with his Search for Escanta. Can't cast that. Has to put it in the graveyard, even though he would really like to be able to cast it. Misses on the land, and we're back to Jones. Won't take much to clean this one up.
Yeah, I mean, unless he has some other type of pressure, he can't quite kill Purcell this turn, but the Stubborn Denial should be good enough since Purcell misses land drop again.
Yep. So here's an attack for 7 again with the Death Shadow. Purcell's got a handful of nothing. Looks like he drew Settle the Wreckage. So, yeah, another one he can't cast. He'll fall to 6. Coligan's Command is the cast. And Purcell doesn't even want to resolve it. So this one's going to go 2-0 in Kevin Jones' favor.
Yeah, that was a pretty clean win for the Grixis Death Shadow deck. Really putting on a clinic there, Kevin Jones.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance how the games go. When the Jeskai player doesn't get glutted on very expensive spells, there's a lot more play. Maybe draw more Path Exile, some of those sideboard Celestial Purges that can come into play in a big way.
Well, the problem is you have to draw them usually after you get hit with a discard spell or two.
Yeah.
In that particular game, and when we saw Kevin Jones cast 3 discard spells total, taking away 2 copies of Path Exile and a Snapcaster Mage, and just leaving Purcell with multiple 4-drops plus in hand. And if he doesn't hit his land drops there, he's just never going to do anything. We saw him cast literally a Search for Azcanta that game.
Yes.
The entire game he cast a Search for Azcanta.
Not a lot going on.
And he was dead.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that really just shows you the strength of the Grixis Shadow deck. Even the matchups where you're not quote-unquote favored, you know, you have a lot of play. And that was definitely showing what the Shadow deck could do in that spot.
Yep, Kevin definitely checked the appropriate boxes. Now we're going to check in on the rest of the match here. We're going to go to Kellen Pastore against Benjamin Nikolich.
All right, now this is going to be Burn versus Jeskai Control. Of course, everyone on the right is playing Jeskai. Pastore down a game.
Yeah, Nikolich was able to navigate through the first one. Being told we have life totals. Pastore's here at 17 and Nikolich at 13.
Well, looks like Andrew Davis probably won because I just saw a handshake.
Yeah, we'll get confirmation on that in a second, but that handshake was at a weird time in this game. Some Rift Bolts on suspend, a little Cryptic Command action, but yeah, this match might be over.
That's fine. Looks like they've agreed to keep playing just to put on a show for us. We appreciate it. Cryptic Command here going to be targeting one of the Rift Bolts, but Benjamin Nikolich's life total is in jeopardy over the next few turns.
Yeah, I think that 1 bolt, 1 off, so he should have gone to 10, and then this Helix is to 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Baneslayer Angel, that could turn things around. Let's see what happens here.
That's a tough one for the burn deck. Arid Mace is not going to do it. All right, so Nikolich wins that match, but his team did not do the rest of the work. Andrew Davis, Kevin Jones, they pick it up for Kellen Pastore here, so they're going to win 2-1 here. And we are actually going to be able to implement our time-shifted technology in this match. So that's really exciting.
Even though there's 3 Jeskai Control decks on the right-hand side,